Hello friends, welcome back to my channel, and today we are back with another exciting video. So this video I'm really excited to discuss this video with you, all of you, and I'm sure you're also interested to have this information which I'm sharing in this video. And basically what happened is a lot of people has been contacting me personally through messengers, through chats, asking what is the complete DevOps roadmap for them to get into a DevOps engineer role. They must be doing some studies, or they are very graduate. Some are doing some development side, or some are in the operation side, so they want to get into a DevOps role. So I've been giving those suggestions and the guidance to them personally. So I thought for benefit of all of others, let's create a DevOps roadmap. And this is a new year for 2022, so I thought it's a good start to have a start with the DevOps roadmap. So you may be thinking, why should you learn DevOps? So all these answers will be given in this video, so stick to it. So let's go through the whole content of this video, so I'm sure it will be helpful for you. And you may be thinking, is DevOps relevant for you? So maybe you are a developer. I don't know what is your skill. So maybe you are a developer, or you're an operational guy, IT operational guy, or maybe you're a student or someone starting new, like you don't have any information on DevOps. You're completely in a different skill or career, and you want to get into a DevOps engineer role. No worries, this video will help you. It will give you a guidance. It will tell you what contents you have to learn, what the path you can choose, and you also will get to know what is DevOps from this video, because you first of all you need to understand what is DevOps, and by end of this video you will know like how to become a DevOps engineer. So that's the agenda for this video. Like you should know like what is DevOps, and if you want to become a DevOps engineer, this course will tell you like what are the topics or technology skills you need to learn, and how you can reach that goal. So before I get into that, I would request you also to like my channel, like my videos, subscribe, and also share and support. So let's get started. So DevOps, as what we are going to talk about DevOps and the complete life cycle of DevOps and the roadmap of DevOps. So before I get to that, I want to give some notifications. So first of all, I need to know like what is your motivation for learning DevOps. If you're not motivated, or if you're not really interested to get into a DevOps role, maybe this video is not relevant for you. But if you are just want to know, if you want to understand what it is, yes, go ahead, you can do it. But the overall concept is like you need to be really motivated if you want to get into a DevOps role, and you also need to have a clear commitment. Yes, I will spend enough of time. I'm committed to this learning, and I want to get into this role. Otherwise, it'll be like somebody will start something, because it's going to be a vast topic, and you just started. If you think like I can finish it in 1 or 2 days, or it's that simple, then it's not. So you need to have a real commitment for learning this. And the other suggestion is like, don't jump into everything what we are going to discuss on this video. Start small, start small topic, learn those step by step, and get into the stage where you can practice. So you need to practice a lot. So it's not just reading through or just not going through some videos. You need to do a hands-on. You need to keep practicing all those contents what I'm going to show you, and then only you can reach to the goal. So that has to be very clear, your motivation, your commitment, and starting small, and continuous practice. So all those things you are committed to that, then you can continue with this video. Or if you're not that interested, I would say like maybe you can skip it here itself. Now as I said, there are possibility. I don't know whether you are a developer, or maybe you're a system admin or an operational guy, or maybe, as I said, you're a graduate or student. So these are some combination, I think, the persons who want to get into a DevOps role. So you may be in part of any of these three categories, or maybe some other category as well. So but I just consider these are three common categories which people has contacted me asking like how I can get to a DevOps engineer role. So based on that, first of all, I want to tell you, like, don't jump into anything. You do a self-evaluation of yourself. So what do you mean by self-evaluations? So you have to, first of all, you need to identify what is your key skills. You do a self-evaluation of yourself, write down. It's not just to keep in your mind. This has to be done perfectly. You take a piece of paper and write down, okay, you are doing your self-evaluation. What are your key skill? What are your strength? What are your weakness? So for example, if you're a developer, you can write down, okay, I'm really good in Java, I'm a developer on Node.js, or any other topic, C++, or maybe you're an operational guy, you can say I'm really good on Linux. So you can write down all those things. You can probably your weakness is like, I'm not good in some scripting, or I'm not good in some analytics. So those things you have to clearly write down. Then you need to have a clear career goal. So what do you want to achieve? Do you really want to get into a DevOps engineer role, or your interest is to something else? If your interest is like machine learning or artificial intelligence, there is no point you spending time on learning DevOps. So you need to have a clear goal on what is your career ambition. So you need to have a ambition defined as well, and you also need to have a clear improvement plans. Like you identify like these are some of the places I'm lacking, and I need to have a clear improvements done, which can be reviewed very frequently, so that you can have a proper growth. So this is very important in any case, like doing a self-evaluation. If you want to reach a goal, you need to understand what is your current stage. Then you keep doing some action. You reach to a next stage. You identify the gap. You keep improving. That's how you can reach to a goal. Now let's get started about your career goal. So there are different cases. Like it doesn't mean like you have to be a DevOps engineer. Some people want to have a full stack developer. So it's a huge topic for full stack developer. So I'm not going to talk about that here. But if you want to be a full stack developer, that is your career goal. You focus on that. Maybe some other video I will create, like how to get into a full stack developer role. Some people will think like I want to get into a front end developer. I don't want to be a full stack. Maybe I just want to have a front end developer like React or Angular or something you want to do. Or some maybe think I want to do a backend developer, right? So you want to have a backend developer role only. So that should maybe your career goal. If you are your goal is to have a DevOps professional or DevOps engineer, yes, you are in the right place. We are going to talk about that in this video, like how you can achieve the DevOps engineer role irrespective of your current skill. You can based on your skill gaps, you can identify what you need to learn, and you can grow with that. So before we get into the discussion on what are the topics you need to learn, for those who are very new to this DevOps, or if you don't know what is DevOps, let's talk about that a little bit. So the DevOps, you basically comes from two terms. One is development, another one is operations. So as the name itself is a combination of these two words, development and operations. So development team is there and operation team is there. So how you can collaborate both the teams. So but if you think DevOps is something tool or some technology, that is wrong. DevOps is basically a culture. So using this DevOps culture, what we are trying to achieve is like how you can promote the collaboration between development and operational team. And why you want to do it, once you do this collaboration, you make the software development and deployment faster in an automated and repeated way. And this doing that, it will improve your time to market of your software. So why you want to do this? Because usually there is a development team, there is an operational team, there is always a friction, like once development team do something, when it get deployed in production, they always say we don't want to deploy because it may impact the production. Development team want to do it, so there is always friction. So that is where the collaboration comes between development and operation team. So there will be very frequent automated testings. You can deploy your staging stage environment, you can test it, then you can deploy it in your production without any impact with frequent changes. So that is where the DevOps term comes up. And how to achieve DevOps, you may be using a lot of tools to in the automated. So that's what we are going to learn in the roadmap, like what you need to learn to achieve this. When we say about DevOps, you also need to know about the DevOps lifecycle. So the DevOps lifecycle, as you see on the screen, there is a development side and the operational side, right? And it's always a continuous feedback mechanism happening, like from the planning to the coding, build, the testing, and then it's going to the release phase and the deployment and operate and monitoring phase, right? So what we do is, on all these phases we may be using different kind of tools like Git, Bitbucket, GitHub and GitLab. Those kind of different tools we will use. Some of build tools like Maven, Gradle, MS Build, or it can be some other testing tools like Selenium, JMeter. So different kind of tools we'll be using in different stages. Some of the integration tools like Jenkins, Circle CI, Bamboo, TeamCity. So I'm just giving some information here. Some of the configuration or deployment tools like Ansible, Chef, Puppet, and also like some cloud or Docker, Kubernetes, or some monitoring tools, Prometheus. So we'll talk about all these things in the upcoming slides, like what you need to learn in which order, so you can reach to this goal. Okay. And also what you need to understand when we talk about DevOps is something called CI and CI/CD, right? So CI stand for continuous integration, and CI/CD stand for continuous integration, continuous delivery, as well as continuous deployment. So there are two terminologies there. So just quickly to give a information on what is continuous integration. So you can see the continuous integration is like if you have a developer, right? And you have a software which they will be worked by multiple developers, right? So they will have different versions, and if you want to merge those versions, you will have different unit tests, and at the end you need to have an integrated version, tested version, right? So all those small changes are integrated and the main application is up. So that is done by automated way. It is called continuous integration. And if you have the next one is called continuous delivery. So if you see here the last step from deploy to production, which is a manual, right? So rest of other stages like build, merging, then after that you have an acceptance test and you deploy to a staging environment, which are all automated. But the production of your deployment of your application is a manual, so somebody has to manually verify it and deploy it. So that is why this is called continuous delivery. And whereas if you go to the other terminologies called continuous deployment, here if you see everything is automated, there is no manual intervention, all the steps are automated. So all these checks, testing, accepted testing, deployment to staging stage, and if that is passed, it will automatically deploy to production. So that is the terminologies which you need to understand as part of continuous integration and continuous delivery or continuous deployment. So based on your requirement on your project, you may be using any of these concepts, so that you can deploy your application. Now let's come to our point, roadmap to become a DevOps professional. If you think it's an easy job to get into a DevOps profession, no, it's not an easy job. So as I said in the beginning, the commitment, the continuous practice, your motivation, and all those things matters here. So if you are want to get into a DevOps profession, you will have to have a continuous learning, because always there are some new tools, new technologies, and new things which you need to continuously learning as part of your DevOps profession. So that's something which you need to keep in mind. And now let's get started about our DevOps roadmap. So first thing what I would say is, like, if you want to get into a DevOps role, I'm talking now from a person who is completely new. If you already know about some of these stages, you can skip it. You can go to the next one which you want to learn. Okay, so it doesn't mean like you already know about the culture and overview. You still need to redo it. So some of you, maybe some stages you're already aware, so you can go to the next one. But want to give the complete overview. If you're a fresh person, or if you're a student, or if you're a new graduate who is completely new to DevOps, what I would say is like you need to start learning the DevOps culture and overview of DevOps. So what you need to learn, you need to understand what is DevOps. As I told, I already given a quick information on what is DevOps, but that is very short. You need to read through what is DevOps, why the DevOps is implemented, or the motivation for implementing DevOps in an organization. So somebody will not implement something just for that, right? So there is a benefit, or there is a motivation for that organization to implement DevOps. So you need to understand the motivation behind the implementation of DevOps. You also need to understand there are different factors in influencing the DevOps adoptions. So you need to learn those things, like what are the factors which influence this adoption of DevOps in the organization. And there are also a lot of barriers. So some of the organization cannot use DevOps. So you need to understand what are the barriers which is impacting DevOps. Some of them may be like security or project management. So those are some barriers which have impact on DevOps. So you need to understand those things. And also you need to understand the software development lifecycle. So if you don't know how the software development lifecycle works, the whole process of DevOps will not help, because you need to know the base of how a software is developed, how it is tested, how it is deployed, right? So all those things you need to understand. So the software development lifecycle has to be very clear to start the DevOps. Now if you move on to the next stage, or next thing you want to focus, so once you know the base of what is the culture and the overview, now the next thing what I would say is like you need to have a good understanding of server administration. So now, for example, you are a developer, so you already know the software development lifecycle, some coding, some programming language, but you don't know anything about server administration. So these are some places you are lacking. So you need to identify what are your current skills and what are the other skills which you are gap from this roadmap. Then you can focus on those gaps. Whereas you're an operational guy, you are good in server administration, but you are lacking on some other skills, you need to focus on that. So that's how you can, as I said, you need to do a self-evaluation, and based on that you need to prepare a plan. Okay, so now when we say about learn server administration, I would especially say you need to learn a Linux operating system. You can learn Windows as well, but Linux is very critical, because a lot of open source applications are running on Linux. So the usage of Windows will be very less for an DevOps engineer. So as I said, you need to focus really good on Linux. So you need to know how these servers work. So it's a must for a DevOps engineer to know how servers work. So otherwise, you will be having a big challenge in managing your key roles, and you need to have a clear good understanding on Linux commands. There are in Linux, you have to run a lot of things, most of things on command line only, right? So you need to live with the command line. So you have to have some SSH your server. You need to keep running commands, right? So you need to have a good knowledge on the Linux command, and you also need to have a good understanding on the file management, permissions, process, how processes are running on Linux, how the networks are, the ports are mapped. So all those things you need to have a clear understanding on Linux, and you need to also have a knowledge on the architecture, the CPUs, memory, system performance. So all those things is really important as part of server administration. So if you're very new on the DevOps side, as I said, if once you know about the basic overview and also the culture of DevOps, then you can start learning the Linux administration. So I would suggest like some of the free courses like Free Code Camp. Also, there are a lot of free books available for Linux, so you can read through it. I think it's not that much tough, to understand, to learn these commands in the Linux. But you may need to have a little bit more in-depth on the permissions, the file management, all those things in Linux. So once you get to know that, you're good to go. Now if you move on to the next phase or next thing, what you can focus is like learning web server, networking, and protocol. So you may think like, why you need to learn networking or protocol, right? Basically, most of the applications or your softwares which you are deploying will be on some kind of middleware, which will be accessed by in the internet using HTTPS or HTTP or some protocol, right? And also you need to have some kind of SSL, some kind of load balancing firewall or some proxy. So definitely, you need to have a good knowledge on this TCP/IP fundamentals to start with, and how the subnetting or the subnet, all those things are happening. So that you need to be very clear. And also, this networking will help you, like how your applications are configured. Somebody is trying to access from outside, some issues there. So all those things you will have to know. And basically, as I said, most of applications are going to be a web-based or those kind of application. So if you have HTTP or HTTPS, DNS or FTP, SSL, how to give SSL port forwarding. So all those things you need to have a good knowledge if you want to be having a DevOps engineer. Now what we are talking about, all these things, is like to have a great DevOps engineer. Okay, if you are going to start very new, you can start with small. As I said, you don't have to have everything together. You start small and you add one by one going forward. Okay, nobody can have everything all together in a day or something like that, right? So you start basically from a small side. If you think this is not the one which you want to start, you can go to the next one and you can add up those things later also. So as I said, from a networking side, you also need to have a good understanding on reverse proxy, firewall, load balancer. So all those things you will have to do so that it will give you a good strong base on how the applications are running. Now from a web server point of view, because most of the applications are going to run on a web server, you need to have knowledge on Apache, Tomcat, or Nginx, or IIS. So because you need to deploy your application in Tomcat, you should know where these applications files are going to put, where your web apps will be there, which configuration file you need to change, right? So all those things you need to know. So so it's always good to have a good understanding on web server, and that will help you, like once you know all those things, you will know how these applications are deployed in your middleware or these web servers. Otherwise, what will happen is, like you may not know how this deployments is happening. You'll have to check with somebody, because basically the whole management process will be done by a DevOps engineer, right? So if you want to automate those things, you should know how these things are configured. Now moving on to the next thing, like if you are done from that side, this is really critical, because you need to have a scripting or programming language skill. This is really important for a DevOps engineer. Maybe I would say, like not as a programming language, because you may not be developing an application, because you're not going to develop something in C, C++ or anything. But if you want to be a good DevOps engineer, you need to have both the development and operation skills. So, but as I said, the programming skill, you don't have to be writing a program. But what you will require is, like you will require a clear understanding of different programming language, so that you should know how the application works. And the scripting, why it is important, because your job as a DevOps engineer would be how to automate a lot of things, right? because you are working along with development and as an operational guy. So you will have to automate a lot of the software development things in the integration process and all those things. There you will have to write a lot of scripts, pipeline script. You'll have to do a lot of other scripts along with that. So the scripting is really important. So the DevOps engineer, as I said, you will be involved in all the process, like whether it's a build or deploy or testing or release or of the software, right? So you need to have all these stages. You will have to automate a lot of things, so you'll have to write a lot of scripts on that. So basically I would say you can focus on Go, Groovy, Python, Bash, PowerShell. So these are some scripting or programming things I would suggest. Okay, so as I said, programming language like Java, C, C++, and some SQL queries for database. So, but as I said, the programming language C, Java, C, C++, understanding will be really good, but you don't have to develop anything basically as a DevOps engineer. But you will have to have a good scripting skill like Go, Groovy, or Python, Bash, PowerShell, so that you can automate a lot of things. So get started. If you are not having any scripting skill, I would say you get started with some scripting language. Now moving on to the next thing, like what you need to have is learn Git. So you may think why Git? Because without Git or as version control software, there is no DevOps. So there should be a version control system. Otherwise, it's not possible to do all these things what we are talking about in our whole DevOps process. So basically, Git is the common version control. There are other things as well, but I would suggest you start learning Git, because that's what commonly used in most of all software development. So you need to understand the complete basics of Git, how you can create local repositories, how to push it to remote repositories, how you can create branches, how you can create pull requests, push requests, and the merges. There are a lot of conflicts, how that is happening. So start using some remote repositories like GitHub or GitLab. So Git is the base, so you save all your applications in Git, so that you can make the changes in the local repository, then you can push it to the remote repository like GitHub or GitLab, and you can use that repository for all your rest of the DevOps process. So Git is really important. So as I said, the version control system is really the base for most of all these things. Okay, so start learning Git, and I will show you like all these things what we are talking. Linux topics, as I said, you can refer to FreeCodeCamp or any other kind of courses, but most of all other courses like Git, or whether it can be any courses which we are going to talk, all these things will be available in my channel itself, where you can go to the playlist. You'll be able to see the playlist for all these tutorials, where you'll be having complete details from basics to the advanced sections, which I will show you by end of this tutorial as well. So as I said, like the Git, since I told about the playlist, you can go to the Git playlist, which I'll give it in the video description. You can see it has the complete details on the difference between Git, GitHub, how to install Git. There is also a certification which was there, and you can see how you can work on remote local repositories, use the Git folder structures, Git basic command. So all those things are discussed here, so you can simply follow this playlist. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. So once you do this learning of Git, the next topic what I want you to focus is learning on continuous integration and build tools. So this is the core of your DevOps. So everything happens in the continuous integration section. So if you see that the middle section where that circle goes, right, so that is where you will have the all integration happen. So this is where we will write our complete pipeline of your process, like how to integrate and the delivery, right? So you will be writing the complete process, how the applications will, whenever there is a new version created by another developer, how those can be tested and integrated, and also how it can be delivered. So that is the place where we do it, and this is very base, because with the continuous integration and testing, so this will helps this development team to have a continuous development. Otherwise, if you want to do it everything manually, it will be taking so much of effort, right? So somebody create a version, they just submit into your Git, it will automatically create a job, and it will do the integration testing, integration, then it will merge the main branch. So that's how it happens as part of continuous integration. And some of the tools which we use for this is like Jenkins, GitLab CI, Circle CI, TeamCity, Bamboo. Azure DevOps is also very famous. GitHub Action is now famous. So basically the common one is Jenkins, but I think now a lot of people are using GitLab CI, Azure DevOps, and other tools as well. So it's up to you, like you can focus on which one is relevant for you, but I would suggest like you can start with Jenkins, GitLab CI. So those are very common one, and you can also use some of the build tools like Maven, Gradle, MS Build. So you may have a Java project, or you may have a .NET project, so you may be using Maven and Gradle for building your Java project. Your .NET project is build using MS Build, and all these things will happen automatically in your part of Jenkins pipeline, so that it will automatically do the build, and it will automatically test it, it will automatically do the staging deployment. All those things will happen in the overall pipeline process. So you should know how to write Jenkins pipeline, how to create the whole workflow. All those things you should know in Jenkins, GitLab, gitlab.ci file, how to write. So all those things you can learn it from the playlist which I'm going to show you now on my channel itself. Now if you go to my channel for my playlist, you have a playlist for Jenkins. You can see it has quite 23 videos, and it has a lot of content from base to advanced. So you can see it start with the Jenkins introduction, creating a basic job, then how to use it for webhooks, then slave master concept, sending email, the Maven build project. You can have pipeline, how to deploy your applications, Jenkins file to Docker. You can also see the .NET MS build for .NET, SonarQube integration. So it's quite a lot of tutorials are there. If you go through this, you'll have a clear picture on Jenkins, and you can see you can even see the CI/CD pipeline to deploy your application in Kubernetes cluster as well. And if you go to this, if you don't want to have Jenkins, you can also use GitLab CI. So GitLab CI also, you can see there are quite some videos which give you the complete details on starting from the base of GitLab, SSH key, GitLab runner, what is GitLab runner, and how to write the CI/CD pipeline. Also using Maven Java project, you can GitLab container registry, how to pushing it to the Docker. You can also see like for Node.js application, how to deploy it for Kubernetes. So all those details you'll be able to see if you follow this playlist in my channel itself. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. So we spoke about Git, we also spoke about Jenkins, other continuous integration tools, and build tools like Maven and everything. The next thing now you need to focus is on learning containers and orchestration tools. So what do you mean by containers? Means like Docker is a container, so that's the main one. So you need to have a clear or good skills on creating, building, deploying, or managing your containers to deploy your production or your staging environment. Because now most of what happened is now most of our applications are deployed in our development stages using containers. So you need to have a clear understanding like how you can write a Docker file, how you can create an image for your application, and then how you can deploy it to your Docker hub or some other GitLab container registry somewhere. Then you can pull that to you deploy your application. So all those things you should know. So basically you should start learning Docker, Docker Swarm, Kubernetes, Ranger. So those are some of things which you need to start learning as part of containers and orchestration. Now here also I have clear tutorials on my channel where I have around 4-5 hours of tutorials on Docker, Kubernetes, which give you the complete base, starting from the base what is Docker to the high-end advanced tutorial like Docker Swarm and Docker Stack, Kubernetes, all those things you can see it from my channel itself. Now if I go to the playlist for in my channel for Docker, I have around 45 videos here. These are around 4-5 hours of video. We're starting from how to set up Docker on a CentOS to the top like basic commands on Docker files, the networking on Docker, how to deploy a lot of containers, whether it's SQL or the persistent volume, Docker Swarm, how Docker file commands, Docker Swarm basics, then microservices, how to deploy it, Portainer. That you can also use play with Docker, for playing, working out on Docker. You have MySQL, Grafana containers. You have Docker Stack. So you have quite some videos like deploying nginx, deploying your application. There are so much of video in this channel, in this playlist, which will be giving you the complete details starting from basics to the high advanced, like deploying your Node.js Express app, and even monitoring Docker containers using cAdvisors, Prometheus. And you also have a reverse proxy Docker containers using nginx, and a lot of tutorials on the private Docker registry, how you can create. And you can see even is a Node.js Express, MongoDB, and nginx reverse proxy. So it's a very complicated application where you have multiple things like Node.js Express as a front end, and MongoDB as backend, and you have a nginx reverse proxy in the front end. So all those things you can Dockerize and deploy it. So all those details are available. And if you go to the Kubernetes, you can also see Kubernetes. You have quite some videos where it start from basics like how to set up Minikube. You have also like deployment services architecture, play with Kubernetes. So there are quite some videos explaining complete details, what is replica set, deployment, daemon set, HPA, config map, how to deploy Jenkins on Kubernetes, secrets, Kubernetes cluster. If you want to set up Kubernetes cluster, you can deploy your Node.js application in Kubernetes cluster, the zero downtime deployment. You also have CI/CD pipeline to do this deployment using Jenkins. And you can also use Kubernetes 3D for K3D for deploying or using as a Kubernetes multi-node cluster. So quite some video, and I'll be keep adding a lot of new videos every week. So you should be able to get the complete details. You don't have to go and look into any other section. So let's move on to the next one. So once you're done with the containers and orchestrations, the next topic would be like learning configuration management. So now we spoke about Git, Jenkins or other tools for continuous integration. We also spoke about Docker, Kubernetes. Now it's time for learning configuration management. So why configuration management is like, once you do all this integration, you need to deploy your applications into a lot of environment, right? And you need to have a lot of configurations. You cannot do all these things manually, so you need to have an easy way to do it. So for that, the best way is like you need to have some configuration tools like Ansible, Chef, Puppet, or SaltStack. So these are some tools. I would say like you can start with Ansible. So Ansible is really popular, and it's easy, so you can start with Ansible. So if you know some other tools like Chef, Puppet, no problem, you can use that as well. So basically, I would say like you start with Ansible, since Linux, and I also have a complete tutorial on Ansible. You can go through that to get started. So again, I would ask you to go and check this Ansible playbook, where it will have a clear tutorials on starting the basic, like what is Ansible, how to install Ansible, what are the commands, ad hoc commands, creating your playbook, how to create your first playbook. Then you have different playbook example like LAMP stack, other playbook handlers, MySQL playbook, what is roles in Ansible, how to create your playbook into a role. You have variables, you have debug command, you have different kind of conditions, you have Ansible, Vault. So a lot of informative tutorial, and these are all completely free, right? So nobody is asking you to pay anything for this. These are available in YouTube, and I spend a lot of hours creating these videos so that it gets helpful for you. Let's move on to the next one. So now we are moving to the next topic, which is infrastructure as code and cloud. So once you're done with your configuration management, next topic I would suggest you to need to learn is infrastructure and cloud. Why? Because you need to automate your infrastructure and provision your infrastructure with simple script, right? So you cannot do every time you want to deploy something into a server, you need to manually click on it. I had a clear video explaining what is infrastructure as code. If you have not seen that, you can refer that as well. I'll also show you the playlist for that. So the infrastructure as code help you to deploy your infrastructure by just one click of or running or a script, right? So you don't have to manually click on your cloud portal. You go there, click on a virtual machine, create it. Rather than you have a configuration return kept into a source code management. So you just run it, so it will create those infrastructure for you. So that's the basic concept of infrastructure as code. And now you know that most of our applications are into the cloud, right? So definitely you need to know cloud, because that's a hot topic, and most of your application will have to be moved to cloud, so you need to know about cloud as well. Now when we talk about infrastructure as code, some of the important tools are like Terraform and Pulumi and AWS CloudFormation. So these are some tools which you need to learn. I would say like you can start with Terraform. That is the common one or mostly used. So I would say like you start with Terraform, and then if needed you can add other tools. And the cloud, as I said, you need to know cloud as well, because if your applications are in-house, no worries. But still I would say like if you learn cloud, it is an advantage for you, because a lot of companies or a lot of things has been moved to cloud. So you can learn AWS or Azure or GCP based on your interest, or which applications are in which cloud in your organization. I would say like the base main is like AWS and Azure, so that's the main one you can focus. And you can also learn about Heroku or OpenStack, which is also helpful for your career growth. Now again, I want to go to my playlist. So if you go to the tips for you playlist, you can see whole videos. You can go to cloud, you can go to Terraform. So there you'll be able to see the videos on cloud and Terraform as well. So moving on, like one more thing which you need to understand about the cloud is like how to deploy and manage a serverless application as well. So this is also a key topic in going forward in this coming years, right? So you need to have a good understanding how you can deploy your application and manage also serverless applications. Now let's move on to the other topic, which is the monitoring. So it's not only to deploy your applications or just do the rest of things. You need to have a proper monitoring also. So you need to have a proper monitoring and alerting, which is very important as part of DevOps, because if you don't have that, you will fail in a lot of places. So that's why in DevOps you will have the job pipeline. If one job fails, it will do an alerting, and you will also have different kind of monitoring mechanism. So it's very important to have this one in DevOps as well. And it's not only to monitor some content, it should be for monitoring both infrastructure and application as well. So now some of the tools which you can use it for monitoring is like Prometheus, Zabbix, Nagios. Grafana is a visualization tool which goes good along with Prometheus. You can use New Relic or Datadog. So these are some tools which you can use. And again, I would say like I have clear videos on Prometheus and Grafana, which will give you the complete details on starting from base how to set up Prometheus and Grafana to until configuring in different use cases. So if I go to my playlist for Prometheus, you can see we have a good videos on how to set up Prometheus, how to use node exporters, how to run Prometheus on Docker, how to monitor your Jenkins using Prometheus and Grafana, your monitoring Docker, and alerting using Prometheus Alert Manager. email alerting, or it can be a Slack alerting. So different kind of alerts, and even C advisor. So there are quite great videos. You don't have to go anywhere, but no worries, if you want to go somewhere else, so you can go and check. So that's what about monitoring. So you can refer those links. All those links I will give into this video descriptions. And then the final things is like, you have to keep learning, because in DevOps, as I said, you cannot stop learning, because there is always some new things coming up, new topic coming up, which you need to keep learning. So what we discussed is like the complete roadmap. So you can start with culture, right? You understand the culture of DevOps, the base of the how the DevOps is working, what is the software development lifecycle. So you can focus on these concepts, right? Then next would be, you should focus on learning server administration. So in server administration, you need to specifically focus on Linux operating system, and you need to have a good understanding on commands, the file system permission, process, the architecture, and all those things, right? And you can move on to the next one if you are already aware about this. So it's not like you need to go in this order itself. If you want to skip something, you can do some other learning which you are interested. You can go back to the previous one. But I would say this the easiest way, because if you know the base of Linux, then it's easy for you to understand the rest of things. If you directly learn the culture, and if you directly go to Docker, it will be not that easy for you, because if you have the Linux base, then it will be easy for you to do rest of other courses. So now, as I said, you need to also have the web server, which is also very key part, like networking and also protocol. So this is also something which you need to focus. The next one is like, once you do that, the scripting is very important part of DevOps. So you can go for Groovy, Go, Python, Bash, PowerShell. So those are some scripting language which you should focus, because every DevOps engineer will be involved in a lot of automation process. And having a programming language skills like Java, C++, something will be a good thing to know, because you need to have a clear understanding of how the different programming language used in the development process. So you also need to have start learning Git. So that's which I said, like start learning Git, which is base for all the software version control. And you need to have a good understanding on the branching, pull request, merge, conflict, and all those things. And you start using GitHub and GitLab, or those kind of remote repositories. Now this is the base of all integration. So you can start learning Jenkins or GitLab or some other tools which is used for continuous integration, and also from building like Maven, Gradle, MS Build. And I will also suggest like you start learning on some other tool like SonarQube for code quality, also like Artifactory for binary management. So all those things you can add up as part of your learning in this phase. Now you can also learn about containers and orchestration, because now most of all our applications are deployed as a containers in staging environment or in the production in the Kubernetes. So you need to have a good knowledge on Docker, Kubernetes. And also as part of your configuration management, you need to have a good knowledge on Ansible. That's what I would suggest. You can learn other tools as well. I would suggest you start with Ansible, because you can easily manage your multiple environment using Ansible playbooks. And also you can learn infrastructure as cloud and infrastructure as code, and also cloud. This is because you need to automate a lot of your infrastructure using configuration files. So Terraform would be the base which I would suggest to focus, and you can also focus on cloud like AWS, Azure. Then the final one would be like the monitoring, how you can set up the monitorings. For that, I would suggest you can focus on Prometheus and Grafana. If you have some other skills like Nagios or Zabbix, that's also fine. So you can use whichever is specific for you. And finally, as I said, you need to keep learning, you need to keep practicing, you keep up your motivation, you keep doing a self-evaluation where you stand, how you can improve your skills. So I'm sure if you do start by small step, and you keep adding up one by one, you are going to reach your goal one day. and you need to prepare a proper plan. So you want to reach this goal in 6 months, you need to prepare a plan like, I want to spend every day 30 minutes to learn Docker, or this month of Jan I will spend 30 minutes every day to learn what is the culture. Maybe then February month is for me to focus on Git. So you need to have a clear plan, and you need to follow that, so that you can reach to your goal. So I'm sure you will be reaching your goal, and you should be a DevOps engineer in coming days. So I wish you all the best, and keep learning. And I would also request you, like, if you like my videos, subscribe this channel for more videos, and also keep sharing these videos, giving likes, thumbs up, and also share your feedback, like if you like these videos, what you want to see in the future videos. So thank you for watching.